Hello everyone and welcome to another session of next Saviours Essential Question Series. Today we are going to have a discussion on a very important practical topic, that is a child who is presenting to you with bow legs. Whenever the mother of a rheumatic child comes to you, she will never come with a complaint of craniotabes. She will never come to you with a complaint of pigeon chest deformity, the widening of the wrist, or the Harrison sulcus. What she will come to you with the deformity is that she is having a bending in her legs, or the child is having difficulty in walking, or the child is having recurrent falls. So these are the presenting complaints majority of the times. Now, imagine if you are presented with one such question related to the rickets, that which of the following investigation is least needed for the child presenting with genu varum as shown. And in the options, you are presented with several options like serum alkaline phosphatase, vitamin D3, calcium, and X-rays for bilateral wrist AP view. Now, on first look, it seems that all the investigations are equally important. Those who are aware of the basic understanding of the rickets. But in order to have the better understanding of this, we should be knowing that what are the names of the hormones which are responsible for influencing the bone metabolism. And as all of you are aware of the fact that vitamin D, which is responsible for increasing the calcium absorption from both small intestine as well as from the renal tubules, this vitamin D is also responsible for increasing the absorption of the phosphorus from both small intestine as well as from the renal tubules. And on bones, it is responsible for increasing the activity of both osteoblast as well as osteoclast, depending upon what exactly is required at that moment of time. That means it is responsible for having the function of both formation as well as resorption of the bone. Now, another hormone which is responsible for maintaining the metabolic activities of the bones are the parathormone. And the major function of the parathormone is to maintain the serum calcium ionic concentration. Now, if at all there is a decline in the calcium ionic concentration in the blood, then the parathormone will be increased. It is responsible for increasing the activity of the osteoclast indirectly. Thereby, it is responsible for resorption of the bone. That means breakdown of the bone. So this is the function of the parathormone on bone. And finally, the bone also functions under the influence of the calcitonin, and this calcitonin is responsible for inhibiting the osteoclast. Thereby, it is responsible for decreasing the resorption of the bone. That means calcitonin is responsible for decreasing the breakdown of the bone. So these are the three major hormones the bone works under. The first one is vitamin D, which has got both bone formation and resorptive actions. The second one is the parathormone, which is responsible for bringing out the resorption of the bone. And the third one is calcitonin, that decreases the resorption of the bone. Now, once we have understood this, it becomes much easier for understand the basic serological markers which are used in case of identification of the type of the rickets. As we know, the most common type of the rickets is nutritional rickets. That means vitamin D deficiency rickets. And as you know that vitamin D deficiency is responsible for maintaining both calcium and as well as phosphorus in the body. If there is depletion of the calcium and phosphorus, there will be inadequate mineralization of the bone. So naturally, the calcium ionic concentration should be decreased. But as there is a decrease in the calcium ionic concentration in the blood, it will result in increase in the parathormone secretion, and parathormone will increase the mobilization of the calcium from the bones, from the skeletal muscles, from the smooth muscles, and from the nerves back into the blood. So this is the reason why, despite having a calcium deficiency in the bones, the nutritional deficiency rickets is majority of the times having the normal calcium ionic concentration in the blood. Serum phosphorus, as you know, it will be decreased. The alkaline phosphatase, which is actually acting as a marker for the osteoblastic activity, as you know that there is a decrease in the mineralization of the bone, so there has to be increase in the osteoblastic activity. So alkaline phosphatase, being the most consistent marker of the rickets, is found to be elevated in all the type of the rickets. As we have already talked about, that this decrease in the serum calcium ionic concentration will result in increased level of the parathormone. The vitamin D2 is decreased and vitamin D3 will be decreased because it is a nutritional deficiency or vitamin D deficiency rickets that we are talking about. So I hope that you have understood everything related to the most common type of the rickets, that is nutritional deficiency rickets or the vitamin D deficiency rickets. Another type of the rickets is vitamin D dependent rickets type 1, that is VDDR type 1. Now, the basic reason for this VDDR type 1 is the deficiency of the enzyme alpha 1 hydroxylase. As you know, that the vitamin D2 is converted into vitamin D3 by this enzyme, that is alpha 1 hydroxylase, which is present in the renal parenchyma. As a result of which, there will be depletion of this vitamin D3. And this can be very easily identified that vitamin D3 levels are found to be way reduced compared to vitamin D2 levels, which could be normal or increased, because this vitamin D2 is not adequately getting converted into vitamin D3. As far as the serum calcium levels are concerned, it will be decreased to normal. Then phosphorus level, it will be decreased. Alkaline phosphatase will react the same way, and parathormone will be increased, bringing the calcium level back to normal in the blood. Apart from this, if we look at the vitamin D dependent rickets type 2, then it is the end organ resistance to active form of the vitamin D. That means vitamin D is adequately present, but it is not able to act on the end organs. So the functions of the vitamin D are actually not functional for the body. So it will result in the same platform, but if you look at the differences, then here the vitamin D concentration is raised multiple times. So this is the basic difference in all three of them. If you look at the first one, where there was nutritional deficiency rickets, the vitamin D levels were found to be reduced in both of them. In case of VDDR type 1, there was decrease in the vitamin D3 levels, multiple times, but there is increase in the vitamin D3 levels multiple times in vitamin D dependent rickets type 2. Another type of ricket is hypophosphatemic ricket, where there is decrease in the concentration of the phosphates only. Now, it might result in a confusion that how phosphorus only, if is depleted, might result in rickets. You see, the major mineral of the bone is not only calcium. The major mineral of the bone is calcium hydroxyapatite, which is a salt of both calcium as well as phosphorus. Thereby, if there is a depletion in the phosphorus, it will result in rickets too. And finally, if the patient is suffering from renal rickets, that means renal osteodystrophy, why the patient who might be suffering from the renal failure might end up with rickets or decrease in the mineralization of the bone, because as we have already talked about, that this alpha 1 hydroxylase activity is a renal activity. It is an enzyme which is secreted by renal parenchyma, and this is found to be depleted in case of a patient who is suffering from renal failures. Apart from this renal failure will result in increase in the phosphate concentration, because phosphates are excreted only by the renal tubules. So this increase in the phosphate concentration will result in the activation of the enzyme, which is 24-hydroxylase enzyme, and this 24-hydroxylase will bypass this conversion of vitamin D2 into 24,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, which is an inactive form of the vitamin D3, because active vitamin D3 is 125-dihydroxycholecalciferol. Now it becomes very easily understandable that the calcium ionic concentration obviously is found to be decreased, the phosphorus will be increased, the alkaline phosphatase will be increased, the vitamin D2 levels are decreased, but so are the vitamin D3 levels, which are also found to be reduced. So this is how the basic pathophysiological mechanisms are responsible for creating different types of the rickets and how they are different serologically. Now, if you go back to the question, then it makes sense that when you look at this question, that which of the following investigation is least required for the child who might be presenting with the genovarum. And as you know, that most common reason for this genovarus deformity in case of a growing child is rickets, and that too is a nutritional deficiency rickets. So in nutritional deficiency rickets, there is absolutely no point in getting this serum calcium levels done, because it is found to be normal despite the fact that the calcium is found to be depleted in the bones, but the serum calcium values are tightly regulated by the parathormone, which will bring it back to normal. So this is the least needed investigations. We have already talked about that serum alkaline phosphatase is an important marker for rickets, not only for the purpose of its identification, but in case of management follow-up too. Because If there is a decrease in the alkaline phosphatase compared to the previous report, that means the response to the drugs is good. Vitamin D3 is again required for diagnosing the condition that it could be because of the nutritional deficiency rickets. As far as X-ray bilateral wrist is needed for this patient, the reason is simple, because if the ricket is to be diagnosed on the X-rays, then X-rays ordered are that of the bilateral wrist AP view. Why is it so? Because of the specific metaphysial changes. Now, what are those metaphysial changes which happens in case of a patient who could be suffering from rickets? One, there will be metaphyseal cupping. What do you mean by the term metaphyseal cupping? Normally, the metaphysis should be like this, the end, but here it is cup shaped, it is depressed. Second is metaphyseal splaying. Now, normally there should be a maximum diameter of this much in case of a metaphysis, but here it will be a widened kind of the depressed metaphysis, which is metaphysis splaying. And then finally, there will be a presence of metaphyseal fraying, which means that there is going to be a presence of irregular borders in the end of the metaphysis instead of having a normal plain border. So X-ray of the wrist bilateral AP view is essential in order to make the diagnosis. And during the management protocol, you repeat these investigations in order to get a straighter line at the end of the metaphysis, which is known by the name of white line of Frankel. And this white line of Frankel is actually a sign of healing rickets. So I hope that you have understood the topic. You'll be able to mark this controversial question correctly. All the best for your future examination. In case you do not want to miss any update, please join our Telegram group. The link is provided to you in the description. Thank you very much.